People ask all the time, what is it that Common Cause does? Well, our slogan is holding power accountable, and that's referring to our state elected officials, local officials, and things like that. The people that we elect, we try to hold them accountable, make sure that they follow their campaign promises and the rules that we have laid out for them. Our guest is Jim Wallis, has recently, with AtlantaUnfiltered.com, started something called the Georgia Transparency Project, which we'll get a little more into later. But right now, let's kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that AtlantaUnfiltered.com does in addition to the Transparency Project, and kind of why you found it.
Well, Atlanta Unfiltered was actually an idea that I offered to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution when I was still on staff there, with the idea that it would be a place to focus ethics and accountability material in one place. The other thing I wanted to try to do with Unfiltered was to show the supporting material, whether it's documents or interviews or other news accounts.
Because we don't often get that from a newspaper article or a news story.
Right, there's not a lot of that with mainstream news organizations, and most of what's on the internet.
Documents you have there are uncovered through court record, public documents. You've done open record requests. Right. These aren't things that are somebody just sent you and may or may not be true. It's not something that's just kind of pulled from the air. These are actual documents and sources that you've been able to uncover that we can feel comfortable knowing that they're actually public record.
Yeah, I've had people say that sometimes I go into excruciating details, but I'd rather do that than leave a point uncovered. So,
a story will happen, and you think, this is it. That we're finally going to get a result. Something's finally going to happen, and then as soon as the news cycle lets go of it, you sit there wondering, well, what's going to happen, and it never kind of goes. And that's what I like about what you do, is that you keep pushing it, you revisit it when it needs to be revisited.
The point of the Transparency Project is sort of assess the level of transparency that we have in Georgia and how well that works or doesn't work in terms of providing oversight. That there are so many ways in which political figures and office holders can sort of skip around the law, and that the way the laws are written, and particularly the way the laws are enforced, provides very wide leeway. So if you, for instance, are a candidate or an elected official, and you need to disclose your personal financial interests, you can omit information, and there's no one really there to audit it and find out if you've left out something interesting.
If I leave something off without Atlanta Unfiltered and the Georgia Transparency Project, if I decide to leave something off, how would anybody know?
They'd have to go find it themselves. A lot of times this information is difficult to obtain anyway. You've got political action committees, political parties. Everybody that's got a register is supposed to be audited by the former Ethics Commission.
So we could easily say 15, 20,000 just disclosure reports.
I think in an election year they're talking about, tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands of reports, and right now we've got one person trying to take that on and audit them and make sure that they're filled out.
Yeah, so what I tried to do with the Transparency Project is just to sort of narrow that to what I hope is a manageable group, and essentially audit the disclosures that they file. I found businesses that haven't been disclosed. I found real estate that hasn't been disclosed. I found business with state agencies. Sometimes some of these public officials are required to fill out a form if they have any sort of payments from state agencies, but a number of them don't do so. In fact, nobody in the Georgia legislature does that anymore. I had one legislator, I called him while he was driving, and he pulled over on the side of the road to start taking notes on what I was telling him that he hadn't disclosed and what he needed to disclose. He didn't know, and he disclosed it right away as soon as he sort of got through it, and I said, there's this and this and this.
That's amazing.
You know, but a lot of them don't know that, and they don't see the point.
And House Speaker David Ralston from Blue Ridge, Georgia, often says that this information is available with a click of a mouse. Is it that easy?
Well, hopefully with the Transparency Project, it will become available with a click of a mouse. But right now, it's available with a click of dozens of mouses, and a lot of times you have to go even further. Well, one of the things I was interested in is looking at the various ways in which a state legislator can benefit from holding that position, what they can receive. So they receive what they all say is a very paltry salary, and they receive $173 a day per diem for their expenses. But in addition to that, some of them receive many thousands of dollars of gifts from lobbyists. Some of them will use campaign money to pay for things that they can also use personally. Senator Balfour has a condo that cost about $25,000 last year out of his campaign account. So I just put together a piece as part of the transparency report on him that showed, first off, that all of the benefits that he received by virtue of being having the position he is were worth more than $100,000. Not just the paltry $17,000. $100,000.
So you dubbed him the $100,000 man.
Right. And in addition, he was also being in two places at once. So he was receiving compensation for driving from Snellville to Atlanta and back on days when he was in San Antonio and Louisville, Kentucky, and other destinations where lobbyists said they were buying him dinner or giving him a horse-drawn carriage tour of the River District or whatever it might be.
So I kind of want to underscore the importance of what Jim does in AtlantaUnfiltered.com, because Jim uncovered that. There's now currently a complaint. Yes, he deserves a hand for that. It wasn't a major media outlet, it wasn't the mainstream media that discovered that, and there's currently a complaint that the Senate Ethics Committee is considering because of Jim's work.
One of the requirements just for elected officials was that they have to receive notice of an alleged violation by certified mail. Certified mail with return receipt. So that cost essentially about $5 a pop. And the Ethics Commission can't afford it. And they have not been sending out any violation notices because they don't have the money. They're finally going to get, I think, $25,000 in this next fiscal year, starting July 1st. But absent that, a legislator, you can't be fined. There's no penalty. I think one reason that people at large don't connect with ethics as an issue is it's very abstract. And you have to bring it home, and you have to show this is why this really matters. Things cost more because the rules aren't enforced, because the contracts aren't competitively bid, because this work was thrown to a friend of a friend. I spent many years in the news business, and I spent a couple years after starting Atlanta Unfiltered trying to be a news reporter and competing with other news organizations. And I broke some stories and made some news, but what I'm trying to do now, it's sort of an ongoing experiment to figure out how to use the internet and public documents and public resources in terms of people and volunteers to put together a more thorough and more penetrating look at the people who are carrying out public policy.